The topic tonight on being technical and being strategic business leaders is one that's very near and dear to my heart. I've been working in technology for at least a little more than half of my career. I didn't start in technology. About 2 years ago, I started my own company. It's called Cirrus Identity. So we'll talk a little bit about that later. But I want to talk about different points in my career where there was an intersection between being technical and making a strategic business decision. See if that resonates with you, and talk a little bit about why technology and business, why is strategy important when we think about technology and business. For me, the most important thing about the strategy is because we want to create change. There's a delta that is important to us. There's a way things are and the way things we think should be, and we want to make that happen. So you may see a gap in the market. You may identify in your mind a product or a service that should be there that doesn't exist right now, and you want to build it. Or maybe you work in a company and there's some business processes that are totally broken that cause a lot of frustration for staff or for your customers who are using your services. And you want to apply technology and make that better. There's a path from where things are to where things need to be, and there's a lot of different obstacles in the way. And you need to be strategic in thinking about how do you either get around those obstacles or how do you plow through them. And the better you are at making those strategic choices, the more likely you will succeed and make a bigger, better change for your company or for yourself. So when we're out there making change in the world, there's a lot of different factors involved in our success. And the ones I wanted to highlight are the technology. I guess the slides didn't go so well with my transition either. Yourself and the context that you're working in. So when it comes to technology, there's a lot of technology shifts either in your organization or technology shifts at large that will impact the strategic choices that you can make or that you might want to make. In terms of yourself, in every environment where you want to make change, you're going to bring a set of skills, aspirations, ambitions. You're going to bring a level of tolerance for risk and your own tenacity. So how much of those different factors you bring will impact how much change you can make with your strategic choices. And of course, we all work in different contexts, professional contexts. We change jobs. We change contexts throughout the day from our professional life to our home life. And in each one of these environments, making strategic choices is really important in terms of the size of change we can make. So I'm going to give just a few examples from my own professional experience that I think illustrate this intersection between technology and strategy when we're making business choices. The first example I'll give is my first IT job when I was at UC Berkeley. I managed their residential computing program. So we had about 11,000 network nodes. All the students who lived on campus used our network services. It was very important to them for their academics, but also for their entertainment, because that's how they interacted with their friends, and they watched TV, and they listened to music. It was during my tenure at residential computing that I met Angie Chang, and I have been amazed at what she's done for women in tech, so I want to give a big shout out to her. It's pretty cool. And I'm really grateful that she invited me to speak tonight. So during my tenure managing this university network with students in the residence halls, Napster was born. So I know I'm kind of dating myself because I don't know how many of you actually ever used Napster. But it was a pretty big deal when it came to online entertainment. And it ushered in the world of peer-to-peer file sharing, which became the default way that students either accessed digital entertainment or shared it with each other. And because university networks were really fast and they had a lot of college-age students who were sucking down a lot of digital content, the entertainment industry was really upset. And they were targeting higher education as the place to stop this illegal file sharing. And so there's a lot of pressure on us from the media entertainment industry. It came down through political pressure from the regents of the university. It was pressure on me, pressure on my senior management to stop this activity. And what they really wanted us to do was install appliances on our network that would monitor traffic and block ports for peer-to-peer file sharing traffic. And of course, those of us who manage networks know, or manage any software application that's traveling over the network, you can change the port that application is using anytime. So it'd be a total exercise in whack-a-mole that wouldn't produce any meaningful results and would cost a lot of money. And really, there's no reason for the university to invest all this time and energy to solve the music entertainment industry's problems. But there was this huge pressure, right? Every year back to school would come around and the press releases would go out from the RIA saying that universities aren't doing enough and they're the problem. And then my management would say, what are you doing to solve this problem? And at the time, the safe bureaucratic choice for me would have been to install these network appliances and stop this traffic to the best of my ability. And my management would have left me alone and the RIA would have had nothing to say about our efforts. But knowing that there was a sea change in the entertainment industry and that all the money I would put into implementing this technology would be useless and irrelevant 2 years, it didn't seem like a good strategic choice for me. But I had to deal with this political pressure. So I made the choice in my job to launch my own PR campaign. I worked with the campus public relations office and with a team of student staff at residential computing and said, hey, let's launch our own campaign. We called it Learn Before You Burn. And we issued press releases and we talked about how proactive we were being at educating students and focusing on making sure they understood the consequences of illegal file sharing. And that way we were able to shape the conversation. We were able to not spend a lot of time and resources on useless technology. So, the context for this change was relatively small. It impacted all these students at Berkeley as one university, one set of residents. But it was really meaningful for me at the time and for the students. It kept the network open, which was a big priority for me. So whatever context you're working in, there are strategic choices you can make. You don't have to be in a strategic role in your company to make strategic choices. So that was one example. Moving on to the next step in my career where I had a little bit of wider playing field to influence change. I moved from residential computing in a department to UC Berkeley Central Campus IT. And I was invited, because I was a decent IT manager, I was recruited in to manage their identity management program. That's a very technical space, and it's very different technology than I was used to. So gone were conversations around bandwidth and traffic shaping and switches and routers, and now it was all about Kerberos and SAML authentication protocols and CAS and LDAP and things I'd never heard about before. So in terms of the self part of how I was able to impact change, it took a good 2 or 3 years for me to really understand the technology and to have my feet on the ground and be able to feel really confident in my work. But I persevered. There were days when I came home really very frustrated and not knowing if I was in the right place and time, but I stuck it out and got to a place where I actually was presenting on identity management at higher ed IT conferences. A major technology change that happened at this time was that Oracle acquired Sun Microsystems. A lot of campuses had invested in Sun Microsystems identity management technology, and all of a sudden it was no longer going to be supported by Oracle. So we all had this big IT strategy decision to make. And at the time, again, the safe decision for me, the safe strategy, would have been to just buy a new vendor product and get it going and get a budget in place and make it happen. But I knew that identity management as an industry was going through this huge evolution, and the big monolithic vendor product wasn't going to be the way people solved identity problems in their enterprises in the future. So it took a lot more effort to pitch something to my management that was a more modular, interoperable identity management solution, but it was totally worth it. And I was also able to partner with other universities building open source solutions that would fill some gaps so that we didn't have to pay vendors gobs of money for solutions that didn't work very well anyway. So again, I was able to kind of, within my context, make a decision around how to implement technology that I think had a broader impact than I necessarily might have had if I hadn't really thought forward. The last example I want to provide is kind of the recent transition I've been through. About 3 years ago, UC Berkeley decided that they were going to implement a new student information system. And this is a really huge strategic decision for a campus. Every student has to interact with this and the people who support the students as well. The project is going to take years to complete, tens of millions of dollars. For me, as the identity management lead, it would be a lot of user provisioning, authentication, authorization, just a ton of my time, 50 to 75% of my time dedicated to this one effort and making sure it was a success. And that would have been an incredibly important thing for the campus. At that point, though, for me, it wasn't big enough for what I wanted to do. The change I wanted to make in the world, I couldn't do it in my context at the university anymore. At that point, I'd been working with other colleagues across higher ed. I knew that there was a market need across the industry that I could fill. The other thing is that a huge technology change around this time, higher ed, just like lots of industry, they didn't want to build stuff anymore. They want to buy stuff that's built and run in the cloud. And so my career had been building teams, building products, and providing services, and that's super fun to me. So I didn't want to become a vendor relationship manager. I think they're super important, and I love them now as a vendor when I'm dealing with awesome vendor relationship managers on campuses, but it just wasn't what I wanted to do. So the only way for me to affect the change I wanted to affect and to really to do the work I wanted to do was to leave my cushy university job with an awesome pension and build cloud-hosted identity solutions. So I started my company, Cirrus Identity, 2.5 years ago. And we launched our first product last April. So a year in, we've sold to 10 campuses so far. Carnegie Mellon, Brown, Penn State. It's been really exciting. I started the company with a co-founder who had worked with me for years and built some really awesome software. It's really, really hard to build a company. It takes a lot of time. And so the revenue wasn't coming in fast enough, so he's taken a full-time job elsewhere and still helps us out from time to time. But I feel like this is a chance for me to actually build cool products that will have a much broader impact. We just sold our first private sector contract to GE, Global Research, and England, Newcastle University just bought as well. So I just want to say, that's my experience about how technology and business intersect in my career. I want to put the spotlight back out in this room and say, there's all these amazing women in this room. You guys are all making changes and strategic decisions every day. I'm sure you have a vast array of technical skills. You know a whole wide range of technologies. You work in different contexts now, and you maybe have ideas about where you want to go. And I just want to invite you to think about what is that strategic change that you want to make? What do you want to change in your company? What do you want to change about how you can make impact in the world? And what is the path to get there? And how can you apply strategic decisions to get the most change out of the path you want to take? So I hope you do that, and I want to just end by saying to go Girl Geeks, and I just thank all of you for all the change that you're making in the world, and I think it's awesome.